Hi, I'm Chris Devine, and this is my review of the Cosmodio Instruments Pet Yeti. With this pedal, the name really fits appropriately. A Yeti being a pretty fuzzy and somewhat an uncontrollable animal. Well, this is kind of like that, but like the name infers of a pet Yeti, I get the idea. It's kind of something that it's a workable beast. And that's kind of the best way to describe it. We have the usual level, gain, and tone controls. They do exactly what you would expect on, like you would see on other drive pedals. The gain control, however, is massive. You can put it to a lower gain setting. Yeah, you can get kind of crunchy and that kind of gritty rhythm type stuff, but you can find other pedals for this. This pedal really stands out when you really start cranking up that gain. It definitely gets real gritty. It can go into like fuzzy. It is something that is very beastly. Now, yes, it will clean up nicely with your guitar's volume control when you roll it back. That's always a great sign that it's not overwhelmingly saturated or going to be something unmusical. So the range on this gain control, it really covers a lot of the heavier sides of things. Like I said, it gets in that heavy clipping, fuzzy tone, especially after the noon position. And just using those three controls I mentioned, it's very easy to get some really nice heavy distortions that are like massive for chords, great for low note riffage, and plenty of cut and bite for leads. Now, however, there are some extras that have been added in here for some good measure. There's a clean knob here, and what that allows is a non-affected or non-distorted sound to be blended in for extra clarity. And that's really kind of a great function. You can actually also, if you wanted to, you could set the gain at 0 and just use that clean as just a great clean boost, just to push an amp a little bit further. But I gotta tell you, if you have with this clean and you blend some clean in, and maybe put a different type of drive pedal, maybe something a little different afterwards, you're adding that clean tone will be getting distorted by the other pedal in the line, so it can really add some really great layering of tones in there. So it's really cool. Now, for some extra added sculpting, there's a shape knob that adds some depth there. At 12 o'clock, it's neutral. Go counterclockwise, it adds more top end. Going clockwise, it fattens up lower frequencies. At lower gain settings, this kind of plays really nicely with that tone control. It's one of those things, if you ever play with a drive pedal and it just has a standard single tone control and you get it kind of close but not perfect, where you may wish you could boost the highs but not lose the lows, or add more bottom end but don't get too dark. Yeah, this definitely helps maintain clarity without getting shrill, and definitely adding in lows that don't get muffly or muddy. If you push the gain a little bit harder on that as well too, it kind of starts to feel really sludgy, kind of like a 90s rectifier type thing, which is really kind of a neat effect to bring in. Now, here's another thing I want to bring in right now. It's the typical YouTuber plug. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button, and the bell icon will let you know when I put up a new video. I have noticed that over 97% of the viewers on this page aren't subscribers. I don't know if I'm showing up in the feeds on a regular basis. Sometimes the YouTube algorithm takes control, and if you subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss out on any future videos. And if you like this video, you can click the thumbs up button, and if you want to share this video, there's a button for that as well. Okay, back to the pedal. And we actually have some toggle switches here, and there are toggles galore. We have a strength level with 3 different options of input level, and there also happens to be a 3-way voicing switch that covers asymmetrical hard clipping, and which happens to have kind of like a really very present mid-range focus on it. There's a symmetrical hard clipping of germanium diodes that's a bit softer, but it is fatter. And the third voice, which is in the middle, is kind of like it's wide open, and it feels that it doesn't have as much coloring. It's a lot more straight up the middle, which I really like. That's kind of my favorite setting on this pedal, using it in the settings I've been playing with. And finally, there's a bit crusher toggle, and that adds in that gated and glitchy response that gets kind of it gets unpredictable, it gets synthy. It's one of those things that sounds like a fuzz pedal that is farting out or not functioning properly. It's kind of digitally, but it's not quite digital. It's definitely got one of those things that responds to your pick attack. It also responds to the gain control a lot. So if you play with different levels of the gain control where you would normally think, oh, I want more, give it more gain. It's one of those things that if you put less gain on it, that's usually where that glitchiness kind of comes into play. I'm going to put a video up right here so you can see just me messing around a bit with that bit crusher effect, and I kind of played around with the different range of the frequency of the well, not the frequency, but the range of the gain knob with how that bit crusher interacts with it. And so you check this out. Using this with a traditional guitar amp, it was fantastic. I also ran it into my Strymon Iridium, which you heard on the tracks here. I've also plugged it into my DAW using clean amps as well too as plugins on there, which is great. This is certainly a very unique pedal, and it steps out of a lot of the normal pedal options with just a little bit of a tweak of one of the toggle switches. The gain and volume variances really do a kind of interact nicely with each other. It really does affect the whole platform of what you're getting when you start adjusting knobs. They all interact very well together. So you're not going to just have, like, if you're looking, oh, I wish I had more of this, and then you start playing with one of the other controls, you're like, oh, there's exactly what you're looking for. I'll tell you right now, and that kind of gets into the next thing. Some players that might find their favorite tone, you're going to want to find a way to really mark or remember them, because with all these different interactions that happen, it can be very easily to see a toggle switch accidentally move on a board while it's in trance, while you're like, this is one of the gig bags, or maybe while you're getting set up, maybe a cable bumps it or something like that. And trying to remember the toggle positions might not be easy at a gig. You just don't want to. You want to make sure that those there. Whether you use some Dayglow tape or something like that, you definitely want to do it, because very easily one flip of the switch can really change the entire character of the pedal completely. And at a gig, you could be like, what the heck just happened to my drive sound when you go to hit it? So you want to make sure that all the knobs and all the switches are where you want them for your sound, and have a fine way to check and make sure they are there. Cosmodio also happens to try this. When they made this pedal, they had bassists in mind as well too, because the clean blend control it allows an unaffected signal to pass through and blend in the drive for like added grit is really kind of great, because you can kind of get a fuzz bass type of thing where you're not losing the clarity of the bass guitar, but you're adding that fuzz, you're adding that warmth, you're adding all that extra gain in there, but you're not sacrificing the articulation, which is wonderful. That also kind of goes to the next thing. If you want to play around, there's another thing they've also suggested. I did run the bass tracks through this for some added grit. And there's another thing you can do because of that blend function. Using this on like a synthesizer or a drum machine, like a lot of people do that. A lot of people kind of give a little bit more crunch or a little bit more depth to certain things, especially the very synthetic things like drum machines or synthesizers. That's really great, because if you can do that and then add in the clean signal to that grittier sound that you're getting, you maintain the attack and the original signal's clarity, but you can add to it without taking away. And that's really another feature. I didn't play around with that as much. I did play around with it going with my teenage engineering pocket operators, and it does really kind of work well there. I just didn't want to dive too deep in this, because this being a guitar channel, I thought bass and guitar, this would be the way to focus. But this is something that I can see myself using in other ways, like I said, with synths or drum machines in the future. Overall, this is a very flexible, high gain, heavy drive pedal that has enough tricks up its sleeves to work in a variety of settings for any type of heavy guitar. There's enough options here for any drive pedal snob. And it's kind of like also like a sampler to a degree for players that might want to be trying to find ways of either playing with different types of circuits, like the different type of clipping types, like the asymmetrical or symmetrical clipping, and even the bit crushing, because a lot of those types of effects are usually very specific and they don't really give a lot of options. You kind of get that sound and that's it, and you really don't get an opportunity to kind of go between a lot of them. Usually if you get like a Germanium drive pedal, that's usually all it does. Bit crushing pedals, yeah, they're usually great bit crushing pedals, but when you're trying to add like a normal drive to it, they sometimes usually don't do that. So this gives you kind of the ability to tap into those worlds without having to go to other pedals. So overall, really good, really great pedal. And I got to say, this is quite impressive for what it brings to the table. The price of this is also fairly reasonable. It comes in at $219. The street price is $219, so it fits well within that price for some fairly advanced features in a drive pedal of this size. Very cool overall. I'd say that the pros of this, absolutely, you can do a lot with it. It's got lots of options. The cons, really no cons as far as when you're playing with it. You're just going to want to make sure you remember where your knobs and switches are, just because everything interacts very, very, in a very intense way. So you want to make sure you have that. So the street price is $219. I'm going to have the link to their website in the area below, so you can check that out. Pros and cons on the pedal. Pros, it's got lots of heavy drive options, and just all the tweakability in here, wonderful. The cons, there's really no cons to it. The big thing is when you get there's nothing, it does everything it's supposed to do. It's not like one of these modes kind of does something that it says it does, but then really doesn't do it. No, it really hits all the marks. I would just say for just a practical use, you're going to want to mark where your favorite settings are for live use, because you don't want to all of a sudden hit that first power chord and have the mid range be nowhere where you want it, or maybe even not enough gain, or the volume level. So you're definitely going to want to have some markings on it, because the way all these controls interact with each other, you're definitely going to want to make sure you've got your favorite settings on lock, so you don't lose that. Anyways, that's it. I want to thank you all for watching, and have a good day.